heart opening posture. So I've got the bolster and just lining it up down the middle of the mat. If you want to put a small blanket or a pillow at the bottom, it doesn't really matter because we're actually going to get our hips up onto the bolster, lying down that way. So Mel, you can use your foam roller and a blanket or a towel. Um, and hopefully you can support from your tailbone all the way up to your head on that bolster. And once you're up there, you can choose what to do with your legs, but know that you're going to be here for about 5 minutes. So if you do butterfly, that can sometimes get a little hard to hold for that whole 5 minutes in stillness. So you can use some props if you want to. Um, or you can just keep your knees bent with your knees resting together, feet a little bit wider, or you can take your legs straight if you want a little bit of extension in your back. It's your choice. Um, probably the most comfortable one is just knees bent and resting together. And then each of the others will bring either some more sensation into your back or your hips. With your arms, take them out wide. And if your arms easily make it to the floor and you're not feeling much opening through the chest and the shoulders, then bend those elbows and come into your cactus arms. So your elbows are bent 90 degrees, and that should increase the stretch through the shoulders and the chest. And once you're there, you can shut down your eyes if you like and just take a nice long deep breath in through the nose. Open your mouth, let it all out in a big sigh. Close down the mouth and come back to your normal breath, whatever that looks like for you. And in Yin Yoga, we're going to just today do more of a natural breath, but you can deepen it. So you do want a slower, longer breath than what your normal natural breath would be, but not, we're not going to do a pranayama, a breath practice throughout the practice. The breath is more to just help you soften into the posture. So starting to just slow down your breath and maybe deepen it a little bit, but not necessarily going to a full inflation of the lungs as we do when we do our breath practice. And then just remember what your tenets of yin are. So you take the posture, and we're starting out in a relatively simple posture this morning, and you resolve to stay here without too much fidgeting or moving about. Remember that the only reasons that you really should be moving in or out of the posture is if you've got some numbness or tingling or sharp pain shooting down any of your limbs. That, of course, you should not stay there. Come out of the posture enough to make that type of a sensation go away. We do want some sensation, though. And if you remember, 0 is no sensation at all. And 10, when you're stretching, is as though you're tearing the muscles. So you definitely don't want to go to 10 ever. In regular yoga, we often go to 6 or 7, but we only hold that stretch for about half a minute. In yin, where we're targeting connective tissues, and that tissue takes a really long time to stretch out. It's not elastic like a muscle. It doesn't have nearly as many nerve endings as a muscle. So we're only going to about a 4. So you want to feel something for sure, but it wants to be a sensation that you can definitely stay in for a long period of time to really go through that target tissue. And depending on which joint we're working on, really dictates how long we hold the posture for. So we've already been here for 3.5 minutes. We've got another minute and a half of just opening up through that upper back, chest, and shoulders. Once you've resolved to stay there, then you soften and surrender into the posture. And that's where the breath comes in handy. So if your mind is wandering and distracted, often you'll start holding tension in the areas of your body where you know you hold tension. That might be the neck, might be the shoulders, it might be the low back, it might even be the butt muscles. But if you start to bring focus into your breath and just think about letting go and melting into that posture every time you breathe out. As you breathe in, you're often just bringing in some nice healing energy into any areas of your body that require it. As you breathe out, you're letting go of any tension, any nervous energy that should be there. And finally, the fourth tenet of Yin is just simply to become the observer of your body and allow it to talk to you. And just notice what's happening within the body without making any judgments or thoughts about it. With that, we've already been here for 5 minutes. So we're simply going to roll off of the bolster or the foam roller onto your side into a fetal position, I should say, for just about half a minute, just to allow the body to reset. You can use your lower arm to pillow your head. Take a nice long deep breath, let it all out, and just let the back and the shoulders have a little reset. And then we'll start to get set for the next posture. And this is a shoulder posture, and we're only going to hold it for about 3 minutes. And you've got two choices on this posture. So there's a posture where we do it lying down on our tummy. And if you've got any shoulder issues, it can put a little bit more impingement into the shoulder. So if you get impingement already, this may not be the best stretch for you, but I'll show it to you, and then I'll show you the alternative. So the first one is lying on your tummy, and we've done this in regular yoga before. Now, can you see me? All right, so we take the arms out wide. And we'll start by bending the left leg first, putting the left hand in front of your face, and just rolling onto the right side. Now have some bolsters ready and blocks and props, because what you can do is use a bolster to rest that left leg on. So you come over onto that right shoulder, and you can just rest your left leg on that bolster behind you. And you can just take your right hand and just rest the arm in front of your face. So you can play with the left leg. The further you take it back, the more you might get a stretch into that shoulder. And the more you bring your knees together and on top of each other, the less stretch you're going to get through the shoulder. So that's your first option. The second option, if that's uncomfortable, is to do the same exact stretch, but you're going to do it on your back. And so to get the right shoulder, you're going to lie on your left side. You can put a pillow or a bolster under the rib cage, use something to prop up your head, and you're just going to twist and turn and take that right shoulder open by taking that right arm out. And if it just getting to the floor is difficult, you can use a block or something to let your hand land on over on that right side. So it's your choice which one you want to take. I think some of you have already gone there. And we're going to stay here for 3 minutes. And I think you guys have all been there for a little bit already. So I'll take a bit of time off this first one. And once you've decided on your posture, where you're going, just once again, just take those 4 tenets. So you've taken the posture, you resolve to stay there. This is a posture that can sometimes cause some tingling or numbness in the fingertips, so just be aware of that. And if you need to come out of the posture a little bit to take that away, then do so. And then come back to your breath, focusing on your breath, breathing in a healing energy and breathing out any nervous tension. We're about halfway through, so if you do need to adjust your leg or any of the props, if you need to sink further into the posture, come a little bit out, now's a good time. Otherwise, stay right where you are. Come back to your breath and maybe move into the position of observer of your body. Take a nice long deep breath in through the nose. Open the mouth, let it all out. And then you're going to untwist yourself. If you're on your belly, you're going to just stay on your belly, and you can take your arms to your side and put one cheek to the mat, or you can stack your forehead on your hands. If you're on your back and bolster and block, then just come onto your side, bringing your hands together and lying on your side, just for about half a minute before we go to the opposite side. And so now take your arms out wide once more if you're on your belly. And if you're on your back, you're just going to sit up on the other side. If you're on your belly, you're going to be bending your right leg this time. And the right hand goes in front of the face. You're pushing yourself over towards the left and adjusting any bolsters to be there to support your leg in whichever way makes sense for you, making sure you're not getting any impingement in the shoulder. And if you're on your back like me, then it's the same thing with the stretch in the shoulder, supporting the hand with the left, supporting the left hand if you need to, with a block. And once again, we'll be here for about 3 minutes in total. Come back to your breath once you've found your position. And use that breath to soften and surrender into the posture. Inhale a healing energy. Exhale nervous tension. We have about another 45 seconds here. So if you haven't adjusted and you need to, feel free to do so. Take a nice long deep breath in through the nose. Open it out. Open the mouth and let it all out. And then very slowly unwind yourself and come back to the resting position that you chose on the opposite side. So whether that's forehead on hands or arms down at side, cheek to mat, if you're on your belly, or just that fetal position on your side. And then when you're ready, just come on up to your hands and knees and have blocks or a bolster, something up ahead of you. And we're going to do our eagle arms stretch. So this one, we only hold for 2 minutes on each side. So come all the way up onto your knees. Take your arms out wide. And we're going to go right arm under, left arm on top, and find that eagle arm stretch. And then you're going to bring your elbows down to your blocks or your bolster. And then you're going to start to just bring your hips back towards your ankles. So into a full kneeling position. You might have to adjust where your knees are. You want to come down something comfortable. You can just rest your left cheek onto your bicep. And once again, shoulders are more fragile joints, so we don't hold this nearly as long as our hip stretches. But come back down into your breath and notice if you are holding tension anywhere. And just try to soften into those areas every time you breathe in and out. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose. Open the mouth, let it all out. Release your hands. We're just going to come into a child's pose. You can use your block or bolster to rest your forehead on and take your arms all the way down to your heels so that your shoulders roll forward and just fully relax here. Just helping them to reset for about a minute. And then when you're ready, starting to come up. And if your knees are sore, like mine are, feel free to cushion them up before we go to the other side. Should have mentioned that before we started. All right. And then once you're there, you can come back up onto your knees and we'll get set up on the other side. So take the arms out wide. This time it's the left arm under the right arm. Get those hands wrapped together and then coming down onto your prop, block or bolster, and adjusting the knees as you need to, bringing your hips back towards your heels and bringing your knees either closer or further away from your prop until you find the position that works for you. And this time the right cheek can sort of rest up against the bicep.
Coming back to your breath, resolve to stay here, and then start to soften into the posture. Breathing in that healing energy, releasing any nervous tension as you exhale. Take a nice long deep breath in through the nose. Let it all out in a big sigh. And then slowly release those hands. Unravel the arms. Come back to that child's position, using the prop for your forehead and taking your arms, hands down towards the heels, letting the shoulders roll in just for a minute while that body once more resets. And then slowly come up onto your knees just for a moment. Move your props out of the way. And we're just going to reactivate the shoulders after all that lovely shoulder stretching. So we're going to go into a plank on our elbows just for 15 seconds. So knees up or down, your choice. But we're just really trying to keep those shoulder blades nice and stable. And once you're there, we'll start our 15 seconds now. Keep those hips in line with the shoulders. We're just reminding those shoulder muscles that they still have some work to do on a regular basis. One more breath. And then go ahead and drop your knees and come back to kneeling. We're going to go into frog next. So you guys have all done frog with me before. If you have a blanket and you want to pad up your knees, you can do that. Otherwise, you can take your mat and fold it inwards halfway from both sides, and you can go on the horizontal edge of your mat. There's lots of options, but it is nice to have padded knees as you go into your frog. So I'm going to use my blanket. And bolster will be, or roller, will be going the vertical direction. So in front of you. If you're facing the long edge of your mat, then it's going the other way. We're going to start by taking just a wide knees child's pose with the bolster. And we're going to just sort of slowly move into our frog. So starting with the bolster, not right in, but maybe sort of just inside your knees, coming down onto it, taking those knees as wide as you can, but keeping the big toes together to start, and taking your cheek to one side of the bolster or the other. We will turn our head halfway through the posture for the next, just to equal things out. And in this first posture, just see how your inner thighs, your groin is feeling. And we're going to progress this frog. And if you get to a point where you're like, yep, that's as far as I can go, then stop the progression. And just stay where you are. The next part of frog is to take your
big toes away from each other, and try and get your feet so that they are in line with your knees. So you're taking your feet out to roughly the same width as your knees. And that will already create more tension or sensation, I should say, in your inner thighs and your groin. Maybe. It does for me. Once you're there, just come back and just stay in this posture and see how this feels. Maybe this is as far as you're going to go today. Maybe it's not. Come back to your breath. This is a posture where it's very easy to go past that 4 out of 10. And these are the hip joints. And so if you do go to a 5, that's fine. Hips are big bull joints, big connective tissue. A little bit more sensation is okay. The next part of the progression, if you feel like you can go further, is just moving the bolster further away from your body and taking your hips further away from the knees. And amazing if you can spread your knees a bit wider. So you're trying to get down. Some people go into almost a split flight position with their upper thighs. I certainly don't. Um, just going to what makes sense for you. And at this point, everyone can turn their head to the other side. We're about halfway through the posture. Um, and the progression really is just trying to get those hips closer and closer to the ground as the knees go wider apart. So you can either stay here for the whole rest of the time, or if the sensation starts to lighten up and you want to go further, you just simply keep trying to sink those hips further to the ground, knees further apart. We have about 2 more minutes here, so come back to the breath. Trying to just soften and surrender with the breath. We're in our last half a minute. Take a nice long deep breath in through the nose. Open your mouth, let it out in a big sigh. And then coming out of frog is always interesting. You can take some weight into your elbows and just try and take your knees further away from the body and bringing them together. So that, and then move any props out of the way so you can come down to lie on your belly in a belly shavasana. And again, you can choose where you want your hands to go. You can stack your forehead on your hands, or you can take your hands to the side and one cheek to the mat. Just for about a minute here. And if you want to just do some windshield wipers with your lower legs, you can. So bend your knees 90 degrees and let the feet just go slowly from one side to the other. You don't have to do the windshield wipers. If you prefer just to stay in stillness on your belly, that is also an option.
And come to stillness. And we're going to come up to a seated position. So we're going to do our caterpillar, which is our seated forward fold. So if you like to have a little bit of elevation to keep that forward tilt of your pelvis, you can grab a blanket or a cushion or a block and just come onto the very edge of it to do that. Have all your other props nearby. I have all mine. And we're basically going to do a seated forward fold. So you can do it without props, where we all sit up straight and tall, and just come into a fold wherever is comfortable for you. You can take your hands to the floor, palms facing up. If you want to use props, which is what I do, if you've got the squishy bolster, you can do the hugging version. If you've got a firmer bolster, you can create a little ramp. I use one block to make my ramp, and I use another block to put my head onto if it can reach there. So just coming to something that makes sense for you. And then once you're there, start by sitting up straight and tall once you've got your props set up. And coming down, keeping some length in the low back to start. And then once you've found sort of that 4 out of 10 sensation for you, then you can soften your neck and your shoulders coming down onto a prop. And we're going to stay here for 4 minutes. So we did all of our short little shoulder postures. And now we've come down into our bull joints and the hips and the back, where we hold our postures for much longer. This is one particularly that the sensation sometimes does start to fade partway through the posture. So if that happens at any time, you can just sink further into the posture. I will let you know when we're about halfway through. And in the meantime, just come back to your breath. Come back to inhaling healing energy and exhaling and letting go any parts in your body where you might be holding any tension. We're already about halfway through. So if the sensation has started to decrease and you want to come further into the posture, feel free to adjust. And after making any adjustments, come back to stillness. Come back to that idea of softening and surrendering with your breath. And if your thoughts start to wander, just come back to where you are on the mat. Come back to your breath. Come back to what it is that you're feeling within your body.
We're already at 4 minutes, so take a nice long deep breath in through the nose. Open your mouth, let it all out in a big sigh. And then slowly just start to bring yourself back up to a seated position. Remove your props. And you can bend your knees and lean back on your hands. And we're just going to do windshield wipers with our knees in this seated position. Just allowing the body to reset once more. And then we're going to come to a lying down position. Keep some of your pillows and blocks nearby. You may or may not need them for this posture. I, for some reason, struggle in this posture. Everyone else finds it quite simple. It's called Bananasana, and Matthew and Linda have done it with me before. But basically, we're putting our body into the position of a banana. So we're going to start on our back, arms over our head. Actually, bend your knees and just take your hips to the left to start. And then you're going to walk your feet over to the right. And then you're going to sort of just wiggle your shoulder blades and your arms over to the right. So you're basically making a banana. Now, you can also then increase that posture by crossing your left ankle over your right ankle. So you should be getting a nice side stretch through the hip and the side body. If you have any issues with the left shoulder, with your arms over your head in this position, you can just take a blanket or a cushion or a block and just pop it under that shoulder. Mine tends to sublux and pop out, which is why I don't like this posture. And if you've got ITB bands problems where they rub across your hips, you may also want to just cushion a little bit underneath that left leg to keep that ITB band from rubbing back and forth. So there are some options there. Like I say, I think I'm the only person that has as many issues with this posture that I've ever seen, because most people seem to get into it without any issues. And we are going to be here for another 3 minutes. It's 4 minutes in total. And coming back into the breath, feeling the sensation really, hopefully through your side body, maybe even through your ITB band. And coming into your breath, inhaling a nice healing energy down that left side of your body. Exhaling and letting go of any tension anywhere in your body, wherever you might be holding it, whether that be your jaw or your neck or your shoulders or somewhere else. We have about 1 more minute here. If the sensation has died for you, then maybe you can take your feet a little bit further to the right or your shoulder blades a little further to the right, getting a little bit more side bend. And if you do need to adjust, and once you're finished, and just come back to stillness, come back to your breath for the last minute. Take a nice deep breath in through the nose. Open your mouth, let it all out. And then we're just going to slowly come back onto our back. So getting your feet back to center, maybe lifting up those hips and bringing them back to the center of the mat. Bring your shoulder blades back to the center of the mat. And once you're there, just bring your knees into your chest and just holding them there in a gentle hug. And if you want to, you can just take a easy rock side to side or make small circles with the knees in one direction and then the other. You can choose what you want to do here with your hips on your knees or whether you would just want to stay in stillness. Any way works. And then when you're ready, taking the legs long on the mat once more. Well, not quite. Sorry. Shifting your hips this time over to the right. Lift the hips up and place them down on the right side. Then taking your legs long on the mat and walking the feet over to the left side this time. And then walking those shoulder blades, getting the arms up above the head and taking the sort of the whole upper body over to the left as well, creating the banana now. So the stretch is through the right side body. And then if you want to, you can cross that right ankle over the left ankle. And again, using props if you need to just support under the right thigh if you need to, or under the right shoulder to prevent any subluxation in that shoulder. And once again, we will be in this posture for another 4 minutes. So make sure you've got some sensation, feeling that through the side body, maybe through your ITB, down the right thigh, outside of the thigh. Coming back to the breath. Breathing in healing energy and breathing out any tension, releasing and softening into the posture. And we're already about halfway through, so if you do need to adjust or come further into the posture, or a little bit out of it, feel free to. And once you've done that, just come back to your breath. Resolve to stay here once more without any more fidgeting and soften into the posture. Take a nice long deep breath in through the nose. Open the mouth, let it all out in a big sigh. And then we're going to slowly find our way back to a neutral position on our back. So getting the shoulder blades, uncrossing the legs, bringing them back to center, bringing your hips back to center. And then bringing the knees into the chest for that gentle hug and choosing your option, whether you're staying here in stillness or whether you are moving those knees side to side or in circles. Whatever feels best for you in this neutralization. And then we're going to set ourselves up for reclined butterfly. So we did this one last week. It's the same idea. So you can choose your option, whether you're going to use props underneath your thighs, whether you don't need any props at all, or whether you want to use a block or a bolster underneath your ankles to elevate that butterfly. So remembering what your options were, what you chose last week, maybe doing the same thing, maybe doing something different. So I'm going to do my elevated butterfly once more with the ankles on the bolster. And I keep my blocks handy in case that's too much to just support under the upper thighs. So the feet can be elevated or they can be down or they can be cushioned with a pillow. And we're going to be in the reclined butterfly for about 5 minutes. And you can, once again, just choose what you want to do with your arms as well, whether they're just down at your side, whether you want to take them out wide or do cactus arms. It's your choice. We started with a lot of shoulder work, so certainly not necessary to be opening the shoulders again in this posture, but if that was feeding you and that's where you want to go, then feel free to do so. Should have some sensation through your inner thighs and your groin. We've already done frog today, so maybe this is feeling more flexible than usual, or maybe you're feeling like probably done enough already, in which case just use more props and take care. Listen to the body. Come back to your breath and just notice if there are any areas that are tender that need that extra care, and breathe into those. Breathe healing energy into those areas. And if you're holding and protecting something, breathe out that tension and soften. And we're already about halfway through. So once again, if the sensation is so great that you think, I don't think I can make it for another half, then just prop yourself up, adjust so that that's a little bit less sensation. Or if the sensation is diminished and you want to go further into the posture, make those adjustments now as well. And once you've made any adjustments, come back to stillness. Let go of any tension. Stop any fidgeting. And use your breath to just soften into the posture.
Take a nice long deep breath in through the nose. Open the mouth, let it all out. And then reach down and just take hold of your outer thighs to assist your knees to come back together. And bring your feet flat on the mat width apart. And we'll just do windshield wipers with the knees just to help in this neutralization and resetting. Taking the hips into the opposite direction on each side versus what frog was doing. Sorry, butterfly was doing. And then we're going to go into our last posture of the day, which is our Shavasana. And you can choose to have your knees supported with a bolster or a blanket or a foam roller, whatever you choose. Or if you want to just take your legs out long and wide, you can do that too. If you are supporting your knees, just make sure your heels are still making contact with the earth. And taking your arms to whatever position you want. And if you're in a cold room and you want some layers, grab your layers. And once you have found the position that is your happy spot for Shavasana, shut down your eyes, take a nice long deep breath in through the nose, open your mouth, let it all out in a big sigh. And then close down your mouth, but relax your jaw. Let your teeth just fall a little bit further apart. And your tongue to soften and just rest the tip of your tongue gently behind your front teeth. Relax your face and let the space between your eyebrows at your third eye to just widen a little bit. Feel the weight of your head fully supported by the earth so that you can allow any muscles in your neck, front and the back of your neck, and your shoulders to fully relax. And then just like last week, we will take ourselves away to our very favorite, most relaxing spot in the world, wherever that may be. And recall what that feels like, what the smells are that might surround that spot, what the sounds are. Any sensations against your skin in that spot. You have nothing to do here but to relax in that little world that is your spot alone for the next few minutes. Take a nice long breath in through the nose. Open your mouth, let it all out in a big sigh. And then just turn your head from one side to the other to start to awaken the spine. Start to bring some life back into the fingers and the toes. Make some circles with the ankles and the wrists. And then take your arms overhead and give yourself a big stretch from your fingertips all the way down to your toes. Bring your knees into your chest for a hug. And when you're ready, roll onto one side or the other, whichever side you prefer, using your lower arms just to support your head. And stay on your side for 1 or 2 nourishing breaths. And when you're ready, come up to a seated position. And once you're there, then bring your hands to heart center. And just take a moment to thank yourself for looking after yourself, your mind, and your body in this practice of Yin Yoga. And I thank you all for sharing your practice with me today. Namaste. I have a cat that joined Shavasana as soon as she saw the blanket come out.
Thanks for that, Christina.
Right. No problem. Yeah, I needed the shoulder work today after all my push-ups and swimming yesterday. 78 push-ups yesterday.
Really?
Not very happy. Oh, it's part of the strength and conditioning class I do. Yes, it's crazy.
Yeah, I did
Good.
virtual personal training this week, which was all shoulders.
No, there
So,
you go. So you would have needed it too.
yeah.
Yeah. They're harder to do in yin, but I feel better, so that's good. Hope you guys do too.
Yeah.
So, any preferences on keeping the Sunday time at 11 or 9 for you, Mel, or want to go 1 or 2 hours earlier?
We're happy to go earlier. Maybe the 2 hours.
So that'd be
2 hours.
7 a.m. for you, Mel?
Yeah, I'm usually out running at that time.
Oh, running. Okay.
Yeah. I could, at a stretch, I could do 8.
Yeah.
8?
That's 1 hour earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that'd be 10 for us. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Let's do that then.
That's
We'll
good.
move it to 10.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Great.
Just
All
send me a
right.
reminder.
We'll see you guys later. Yeah, I'll send a note out to everyone, and I'll change it up on Facebook and on my webpage.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
Bye.
See you on
Bye.
Tuesday.
Yeah.